What's happening, everybody? What's going on? What it do? What it do? What it do? What it do? This your boy C Wells coming at you with another edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I am, of course, your tour guide, taking you around the SWAC. We're going to do our usual tour around the SWAC, and this week, as you can see, we're going to talk about Week 9, the last weekend of October, Halloween, spooky season, whatever you want to call it. This is that time of the year. Separation Saturdays are here. Championship November pretty much is around the corner, and that's pretty much where the teams who gonna make the championship they still have faith and they make it down. Everybody else tends to fall by the wayside by that point. So with all that being said, you can check out the socials on the screen down below. Feel free to follow, like, and whatever else those apps require. Feel free to do that. If you want to donate to the show, you can hit the Cash App, $ Swag Talk. So feel free to do that if you'd like to donate to the show, help the growth of the show. Will be much appreciated. If you haven't done so already, won't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel? We're at 420 on the subscriber count, so we're getting where we need to get. So thank you very much for your subscriptions. Like the video, share them, comment, and let me know who you think gonna win this week in these games. And anything else that you want to talk about. So hit me up. I'll be glad to reply in the comments, and we can keep it moving from now. So not gonna waste any time with this. We're gonna go ahead and jump in this and talk about the first game of the week, which is Texas Southern hosting Arkansas Pine Bluff. That game is a 2 o'clock kickoff on ESPN Plus. So make sure to check that out. These are two teams with records that are not that different, but their seasons are going very different. Pine Bluff comes in at 1-6 and 0-4 in conference. Texas Southern is 2-5 and 1-3 in conference. But Pine Bluff is on a huge losing streak. They've lost five. They've lost 6 games in a row at this point. They opened up with a win against Lane, and they've lost every game since. And they've been looking worse and worse as the season goes on. This team was the West Division champs in the spring, but they don't look that way now. So they're coming in averaging 19.5 points per game. They're allowing 34.3 points per game. They're running for an average of 124 yards per game. That number has dropped from over 200 after the first week, and it's just dropped because the running game has really fell off a cliff. They're averaging 3.9 yards per carry. The opponents 177 yards rushing per game, 4.7 yards per carry. Pine Bluff is passing for 185 yards per game. They're 104 of 244 with 5 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Not good numbers at all. They're just turning the ball over left and right. They can't find any consistency at the quarterback position. Passing opponents, 248 through the air. They're 127 of 209 with 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So if you want to go up top, Pine Bluff is very susceptible to the pass, and that could bode well for Texas Southern. Total offense, Texas Pine Bluff 309 per game with an average of 4.9 yards per play. The opponent's 426 per game, averaging 6.3 yards per play. Third down conversions, Pine Bluff 23%. Fourth down conversion 33%. So they're not getting any kind of conversions at all. When they get on the field, they get right off. They're not being productive at all. They have 16 sacks on the season and have allowed 10. The opponent's 40% third down conversion rate, and they're 40% on fourth down. So they're not getting the stops that they need, and if they do get the stops, the offense tends to give it right back. Kiara Crossley is the leading rusher with 291 yards total with 5 touchdowns. He's averaging 4 yards per carry. Kayvon Britton, 179 yards and 1 touchdown. Skylar Perry, 179 yards as well and no touchdowns. They've rotated between Skylar Perry and Xavier Vaughn these last few weeks, and neither guy has been able to take a hold of the offense. Skylar Perry has regressed a lot this year. He's not looking at all in command of the offense. Vaughn is not doing the job either. Um, Perry 82 of 179, 935 yards, 45% completion rate. That's not good at all. Um, 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Vaughn, 22 of 44, 50% completion rate, four, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 363 yards. So nobody's completing any passes. The team is completing 46% of their passes. You're not going to win many games like that. That's a surefire way to not stay on the field, and that can't help. That can't help you at all. Josh Wilkes, leading receiver, 20 catches, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns. Damon Dawkins, 14 catches, 251 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dalen Hill, 12 catches, 236 yards, and a touchdown. Somebody has to get this offense going. I mean, they have talent, but they just are not getting it done right now. Monroe Beard leads the defense with 45 tackles. Jalen Thigpen also 45. Akins 34 and Watts 33 tackles for loss. Davis 6, Beard 5.5, Akins 4.5, Peppers 4.5, and Smith 4.5. Beard leads the team with 4 sacks, followed by Smith and Gray with 2 apiece. Interceptions, Fuller leads the team with 2. So their defense, they have, like I said, they have a pretty aggressive defense, but they just have not been able to stop anybody through the air, and that's really putting them in a lot of bad positions because the offense isn't helping out as well. So they, almost any way you can lose a game, Pine Bluff has lost a game this year, and they continue to find ways to not get it done. So if they want to salvage any portion of their season, it has to start this weekend. And Texas Southern is a tough out now. They're not an easy team to beat. Their offense is playing very well. Andrew Body obviously leads this offense. The passing game is going really well. The running game is developing. He's a dual threat. He can run and throw. So that provides some issues for the opponents. Against Alcorn last week, I would say a really rough first quarter did Texas Southern in. They had a snap over the punter head for a touchdown. Snap over the quarterback head also led to points. And they just, they hurt themselves, but they're a young team that's learning how to win. And right now they are at that point where they aren't really winning a lot, but they're being competitive. So the wins will come. They're averaging 23 points per game. Defense is allowing 43, so they're still not really solid on defense, but they are getting there. Rushing 145 yards per game for the Tigers, 4.2 yards per carry. The opponents 255 on the ground, 5.5 yards per carry. So you can see where the weakness is on this team. The defense is still not really making enough stops, and they are getting gashed on the ground and through the air. 253 per game for the opponents through the air. 10 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So defensively, they're just still not really getting any stops. So that leads to shootouts for the most part. If the offense can compete, if they can't, then they get beat by a couple of touchdowns. Texas Southern 259 through the air, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Excuse me. Total offense 404 yards for the Tigers, 5.9 yards per play, 508 for the opponents, 6.7 yards per play. Texas Southern 33% third down, and opponents 35%. They have 9 sacks on the season. They fumbled 10 times, so they have been really careless with the football. The opponents 43% on third down and 76% on fourth down, and they have 12 sacks. So they're not really generating a lot of pressure, but they're not giving up a ton of sacks either at this portion of the season. Andrew Body, leading rusher on the team, 294, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Ladarius Owens, 190 yards. He's averaging 7.3 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. Kevin Harris, 150 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. Like I said, Body is the straw that stirs this drink, 85 of 134. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 63% completion rate, 1,205 yards. His leading receiver is Keelan Davis, 32 catches, 590 yards, 18.6 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown. Jaron Johnson, 25 catches, 324 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Giles, 26 catches, 188 yards, and 1 touchdown. Those are the 3 guys that he goes to. Everybody else has less than 10 catches. They only have a couple people with more than 5 catches. So those 3 guys are the guys who you have to account for at all times because they're capable of making plays and they're going to take advantage of them. Tariq Cooper leads the team in tackles with 40. Marcantel 31, Martinez 26. Tackles for loss, Cooper 3.5, Hamilton 3, Marcantel 2.5, Martinez 2.5, and Walton 2.5. Sacks, Martinez and Frazier each have 2, and interceptions they have one guy. 6 guys have 1 interception apiece, so they don't have anybody that's really standing out in interceptions. But this game, to me, is gonna be a game that's honestly won or lost by how Pine Bluff plays their offensive attack. If they are still not being consistent moving the football, then Texas Southern is going to have a really good day out here. I think Texas Southern's defense is enough to help Pine Bluff get some points, but I think Texas Southern is on a different mission right now. I think they're hungry to prove that they can get it done, they can win games, and they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. So I think this game, I'm going to go with Texas Southern by a score of 31-21. I think Pine Bluff offensively will be they'll play better because I think Texas Southern defense is just not that good. But I still feel like Pine Bluff has so many issues that I don't know if they're gonna work them out mid-season. So this is really gonna be a tough matchup for them, and I think Texas Southern will put themselves in a good position to win this game and move on to a future winning season in the next couple years. But I think right now, I think they're at the point where they are going to be competitive for the rest of the season. The next game that I want to talk about is Jackson State and Mississippi Valley. That game is scheduled for 3 o'clock on the Mississippi Valley Sports Network. And I've heard a lot about this Mississippi Valley broadcast, so I've heard that those guys are really out there. So if you get a chance to watch this game, I suggest that you do because it should be interesting, if for no other reason than that. So Jackson State obviously is the top team in the league. They come in with the top defense in the league. They're offensively, they are playing well. Guys are stepping up every week. A different offensive threat pops up every week, and Shador Sanders is obviously commanding the offense. The running game is hit or miss. They've had a couple good running weeks, but they seem to be back to where they were before, unable to really move the ball on the ground, but they're still very dangerous with Santee Marshall. This team is averaging 29.5 points per game. They're allowing 12.1. You cannot score on this defense. They're allowing 76 yards rushing per game and 2.3 yards per carry. So again, they smother the run. And Jackson State is averaging 89 yards per game rushing and 2.9 yards per rush. So that's something that I still feel can improve, but is not really hurting them at this point. But you still have to try to, be better with the run game as the season moves forward. Passing 264 for the Tigers, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception, taking care of the football very, very well. The opponent's 161 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Total offense 353 for Jackson State, 5.6 yards per play. The opponent's 237, 3.6 yards per play. Third down conversions, Jackson State 40%, so they're doing a good job converting third downs. They're fourth down to 25%. They haven't done well on that. They have 9 fumbles and 31 sacks. Obviously, their defense gets after you. The pass rush is tremendous. Their front seven is very, very tough, and they're hard to stop. So they have their way, and they give the offense a lot of room for error because they clean up any mistakes that the offense makes. Opponents 28% third down conversion and 25% on fourth down. They have 6 fumbles, and they've allowed 22 sacks. So that's one area that I think Jackson State still needs to improve on is pass protection. The numbers that they put up, even with lack of a running game and not adequate pass protection, has been amazing for them. So that's just a testament of how this defense is played. It really masks a lot of issues that the offense has from time to time. Santee Marshall, leading rusher, 344 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. J.D. Martin has come on late. He has 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 4.4 yards per carry. Peyton Pickett, 176, 4.1 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Like I said, Shador, 153 of 219, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception, 69% completion rate, and 1,852 yards. Those are obviously really good numbers for any quarterback, but those are great numbers for a freshman quarterback. And he's taking care of the football. He's had a couple fumbles, but um, considering the pressure that he's under, I think those numbers are spectacular. Keith Corbin leads the team with 34 catches for 545 yards and 4 touchdowns. Warren Newman, 37 catches, 295, and 2 touchdowns. Malachi Wideman, that's the name that I think you guys really need to pay attention to if you haven't already. 17 catches, 277 yards, and 6 touchdowns, 16.2 yards per catch. He's a guy who's come on late, and he's a hell of an athlete, and he's going to be tough to stop. So they really have to, teams really have to know where he's at now because he's a big guy, and he can go up and get the ball. Aubrey Miller leads the defense with 65 tackles. Keontae Hampton, 45. James Houston, 35. James Houston leads the team with 13.5 tackles for loss. Hampton, 9. Miller, 8.5. Owens, 8.5. Houston leads the team with 8.5 sacks, followed by Miller with 5 and Gaddy with 3 interceptions. They have 3 guys with 1 apiece. Like I said, Jackson State has the opportunity to do whatever they need to do in games. I don't want to say it's Jackson State is playing name your score football right now, but they are a team that is really tough to beat. And if you cannot move the football consistently against them, then you're gonna have some problems. So I think they're gonna have a pretty good game against a Valley team that comes in. Um, they're tough. Valley's tough. Obviously, they're 2-5, 1-3, but they are tough out at home. But they're only averaging 16 points per game, and they're allowing 30 per game. They're rushing for 133 per game. They're allowing 166 on the ground. 4.4 yards per carry for the opponents, 3.5 for Valley. Passing Valley, 137 yards per game, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The opponents 228 per game, passing 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Total offense, Valley 271 yards per game. They're averaging 4.3 yards per play. The opponents averaging 395 per game and 6 yards per play. Valley third down conversions 29%. The opponents 36%, 45% third down conversion rate for the opponents, and 36 for the opponents on fourth down. Valley has 16 sacks. The opponents have 18. Individually, Valley is led by Caleb Johnson, who I feel like is honestly one of the better running backs in the conference. And I say this week in and week out, but if he played for any other team, he would get a lot more attention than he does. Everybody knows he's going to carry the ball, and he's been really productive. 134 carries and 545 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. This is my issue with Valley, and that's the passing game. Jelani Eason, 80 of 128, 62% completion rate, 806 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Valley does not attack down the field. Their passing attack is very much horizontal. They love receiver screens. They will throw some slants. They don't go deep a lot. If they do go deep, Ja'Cory Rankin is the guy that they look at. He's averaging 14.4 yards per catch, 333 yards, 23 catches, and 1 touchdown. Jarius Clayton, 206 yards on 24 catches, and Malik Myers, 15 catches, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Donald Johnson, 9 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Other than Rankin, the other top 3 receivers, they only average about 8 yards per catch apiece. So they don't really attack down the field. I don't know if it's Easton doesn't have a strong enough arm, or they just don't feel comfortable with doing that. But Valley will definitely receiver screen you to death and slant you to death, and that's how they kind of move the football. So if you can control that, you're gonna control that passing game. And obviously Jackson is a fast defense, so they're gonna really probably wrangle that kind of offense and stymie Valley in this game. Valley is led on defense by Jeremiah Kane with 34 tackles, followed by Valmy Soignier with 33, Jalen Bell with 29, Jaron Fox with 29, and Dion Reed with 29. Tackles for loss, Soignier, 8.5, followed by Thomas with 6.5. Bell has 5 tackles for loss, and Daniels 5 tackles for loss. Leading sack man is Thomas with 5, followed by Bell with 2. Interceptions, they have 4 guys with 1 interception apiece. So again, another team where guys they don't really have one guy that's just going out and getting interceptions. The team has been making those plays game in and game out. And like I keep saying, Valley is a tough out. They're gonna fight in this game, but they are outmanned in this game. I think Jackson's defense is will be able to smother Valley, and Valley just they don't have the offensive weapons or the depth to really compete in a game like this. I think they'll wear down, and it's gonna be a tough outing for Valley because they just don't have the numbers to compete. Now they play hard every week, and at home they play hard, and they're gonna come out and they're gonna challenge JSU, but Valley just doesn't have it. And I say Valley's gonna drop this game, and Jackson State's gonna win it by a score of 45-6. I think Jackson will be able to do whatever they want to do. Valley's gonna be tough for the first quarter and a half or so, but Jackson athletes are gonna basically take advantage of this game and put it out of the reach. So that's pretty much where we stand on that game. The next game that I want to talk about is FAMU hosting Grambling for their homecoming this week. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff, ESPN Plus broadcast. This is a game, I mean, I know a lot of people are not really into the tradition and the history of SWAC and HBCU football, but these are 2 perennial blue blood teams in black college football. Obviously, the history among both programs is vast. They haven't played in recent years. I can't remember the last time they played. If you remember, let me know in the comments. The last time I remember these 2 teams playing was like in the Circle City Classic in early 2000s, I believe. It could be a later matchup, but that's the last one I remember. I know they played in the Heritage Bowl years ago. But these, historically, these are 2 very proud programs. They're not going in the same direction right now. Grambling is they're improving, but I think offensively, I think they just are still, they're still not there. They're 3-4 on the season, 2-2 overall, and their defense is sneakily good. I wouldn't say they're a top defense in the conference, but they are a defense that if you're not careful, they're gonna give you a hard time, because they are capable of making plays. But the offense is the issue for Grambling. They're averaging 16 points per game. They're allowing 26. Rushing 84 yards per game. Again, not good. 2.7 yards per carry. The opponents 161 yards per game and 4.1 yards per carry. Passing, Grambling is they're still struggling. Like I said, the pass game is not where it needs to be. They just aren't really, they just don't have it right now. Noah Biden has gotten some starts as a freshman, but he's still up and down. He's not a consistent guy because he's a freshman. He's making mistakes, but they are really having a tough time moving the ball through the air. They just for weeks um they were averaging under 100 yards per game passing. That number has gone up, but they have not gotten better at it. So that's gonna be to me that's gonna be the issue for Grambling. And right now my computer is acting crazy, but Grambling right now is averaging they have a 24% third down conversion rate. Again, offense is just not really doing it. 20% on fourth downs. They only have gone for it 5 times on fourth down, and they've only converted 1 this season. Defensively, 34% conversion rate on third down and 50% on fourth down. I really just I think this offense is very capable if they can find some consistency with the passing game. I just don't think that this is the game for that. Obviously, um, I think they obviously they're a team who can score when they need to. If you get them short fields, they're definitely going to take advantage of them. But they cannot move the ball down the field, and against a FAMU defense, that's going to be tough. Daquez Breton leads the team with 175 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. C.J. Russell, 150 yards, 2.8 yards per carry. 124 yards for Elijah Walker, 3.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. This, like I said, this offense, the numbers aren't spectacular, so not a lot to really read into what they do. FAMU is a very tough team on defense. Their defense gives everybody problems, and I really think that they're gonna really give Grambling a tough time because Grambling struggles to move the football. Um, Offensively, FAMU is still not that good. Sean McKay he's an up and down guy. He's more of a game manager. They're averaging 25.8 points per game. The opponent 16.8. Rushing FAMU 158 yards per game rushing, 4.7 yards per carry. The opponent's 99 yards per game and 3.1 yards per carry. Passing 199 yards per game for FAMU. Again, they still aren't moving the ball through the air like they're capable of with those receivers that they have. 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The opponent's 168 yards per game passing, 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. 357 yards of total offense for FAMU and 5.2 yards per play. The opponents 268 yards per game and 4.4 yards per play. This defense, if Jackson State's the number one defense, this defense is easily number two. They are very, very aggressive and salty. They're tough to move the ball on. They've allowed 25% third down conversion rate as a defense and 36 on fourth down. They have 23 sacks on the season. They've allowed 11. So McKay hasn't really taken a lot of sacks, but this offense is just not consistent. 33% third downs and 38% on fourth downs. They're just offensively they're not really scaring you. But I love their running back combo of Bonnet, and Jennings. Bishop Bonnet 640 yards and 7.2 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Jennings 332 yards, 5 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. Like I said, McKay is 121 or 210, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 57% completion rate. So he's still not being consistent with his passes. 1,226 yards. They're led by Xavier Smith, 33 catches, 292 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jamare Sherrard, 33 catches, 275 yards, and 5 touchdowns. David Manigo, 23 catches, 247 yards, 10 yards per catch, and no touchdowns. Chad Hunter, 16 catches, 172 yards, and 1 touchdown. So if the passing game ever clicks, they have weapons. They have guys who can make plays if they get the ball in their hands. It's just a case of can McKay get it done with his passes? Is he a guy who you can trust to do that? Do you just lean on that run game and tell him just not to screw it up? Right now, I think that's the way that they're playing, and it works well for them. Marquise Bell leads the team with 47 tackles. Isaiah Land, 31. Antoine Collier, 29. Nadarius Fagan, 29. And Derek Mayweather, 29 as well. Tackles for loss, Land, 17. He leads by a far margin in tackles for loss. Williams has 6. And Mayweather, 5.5. Also, Savion Williams, 5.5. Isaiah Land has 11.5 sacks. So you must know where number 31 is at all times when you're on offense because he's very capable of getting in that backfield. And when he does, he comes back there with bad intentions, and he's going to get the quarterback on the ground and put you in bad position. So you need to account for him. Every chance you get, you need to account for him. The leading interceptor is B.J. Bowler and Javon Morgan. They both have 2 interceptions apiece. I really, I think Grambling's going to fight in this game. Grambling is a team this year. They're not playing spectacular football. but I think they're trying. You can see Gremlin growing week by week. They still have a lot of flaws in their offensive game plan, where they just cannot really move the football consistently. Defensively, I think they're better than average. They're a top half defense in the league. They may not be the gap between the top defenses and probably like the fourth or fifth defense are pretty huge. Um, but I think they're good enough to compete week in and week out, and that's what they do. So I think FAMU is going to pull this game out by a score of 27-13. I think Gramblin's going to be competitive early. This FAMU offense is not, like I said, they're not spectacular, but their run game is going to keep them going. McKay's just not going to crash the car, as I like to say, and he's going to get them up and down the field. Hopefully, if you limit his mistakes, then your team, if you FAMU, then your team is going to win this game pretty easily. This defense is going to give Grambling all kinds of problems, so I feel like the margin of 14 points, I think that's a pretty fair assessment of the gap between Gramblin's defense and FAMU's offense. So that does it for that game. The next game we're going to talk about is Southern and Alcorn. This game is a 6 o'clock kickoff, ESPN Plus. Two teams coming in, going different directions. Southern is not, I don't even know how to describe Southern right now. I think on paper, Southern's not a bad team. In reality, I don't think Southern's a bad team. They're probably more closer to average this year, but they're just not. They just don't have the chemistry. They don't have the they just don't have the defensive effort this year that they've had past years, and they've really struggled to stop anybody. Southern can run the ball. If they can run the ball, then they always are gonna have an opportunity to win. If you can limit their running game, like PVU did on Saturday, then Southern's gonna struggle because Southern does not pass the ball down the field efficiently. They can, but they aren't really built for that. So this is a game that's going to be a definite challenge for Southern. Obviously, if you follow SWAC football for 10 minutes and you talk to anybody, you know that Southern has caught hell from Alcorn the last 10 matchups, I believe it is, 9 out of 10, I think it is. The last time Southern beat Alcorn was 2016. And, they've lost to Alcorn any way that you can lose to Alcorn. And they just, Alcorn just really has had their way with Southern, and Alcorn's playing. They're playing good football now. That first loss against North Carolina Central, they kind of put that behind them, and they are starting to play. They're starting to hit their stride at the right time. The defense is starting to get better. The running game has gotten a lot better as the season has gone on. Felix Harper hasn't had that crazy breakout game, but he's played well offensively through the pass game. I mean, he has some weapons that he can go to, and they really have given themselves an opportunity to get to stay in the conference race and set up possibly a huge matchup against Prairie View. Alcorn, 22 points per game average. They're allowing 21, so pretty much even. Rushing 150 yards per game. The opponent's 138. Passing, they're 214 per game, 95 of 163, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The opponent's 182 yards per game, and they have thrown for 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Total offense, Alcorn 5.4 yards per play and 364 yards per game. The opponent's 320 and 5 yards per play. Alcorn's converted 31% on third downs, and they have converted 52% on fourth downs. They've attempted 19 fourth down conversions, so they aren't scared to go for it on fourth down. The opponent's 21% on third down, 3 of 14, and 32% on third down. The opponents have also fumbled the ball, lost 10 fumbles, so they've done a good job of falling on any fumble that comes their way. They only have 7 sacks as a defense this year. That's not quite Alcorn football. Alcorn's known for pressuring the quarterback in years past, and they don't really have that this year. But they've made plays when they need to. They've allowed 20 sacks on the season, so the offensive line has been an issue in a lot of games, and they've kind of worked around that. Nico Duffy leads the team with 564 yards per rushing and 5.5 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns. Stafford Anderson, 204 yards and 5.2 yards per carry. Felix Harper is 95 of 163, 1,286 yards. He's completing 58% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His top guy, obviously, is Charles Pringle, 28 catches, 405 yards, 14 yards per catch, and 5 touchdowns. CJ Bowler, 16 catches, 358 yards. He's averaging 22 yards per catch, so he definitely is the deep threat on his team. Juan Anthony, 15 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown. Manny Jones, 6 catches, 113 yards. Defensively, they're led by Kieron Kinsler, their safety. He has 38 tackles on the season. Juwan Taylor, 38 tackles. Cherilus, also 38 tackles. 35 tackles. And Solomon Wise with 28. Also, like I said, they're not a really good defense as far as getting stops behind the line of scrimmage. 7.5 tackles for loss for Cherilus. They have 45 tackles for loss on the season. They've allowed 44. And like I said, they have 6 sacks on the season. Um, they have nobody with more than 1 sack. 4 guys have a sack apiece to lead the team. And interceptions, they have 3 guys with 1 apiece. And they're facing a Southern team who obviously Southern is a run first team. That's what they do. They're led by a bevy of running backs, Kobe Dillon, Devon Ben, Craig Nelson, Gerard Sims, who just came back from an injury on Saturday. And also you can throw in Ladarius Skelton. He's a quarterback, but they against Prairie View, they used him at multiple positions. They lined him up at receiver. He was returning kick. He played a little bit of quarterback. So you can expect to see him come on the field and do gadget plays. They're gonna try to get the ball in his hands. When Southern throws the ball, they mostly they look for their tight ends. Ethan Howard, Travis Tucker, Gregory Perkins, all leads that group. Marquise McLean is probably their deep threat. They don't throw deep a lot, but he's the guy who probably goes and get it for them. Jamal Washington is their speedy receiver, flat guy. He runs a lot of sweeps and catches a lot of short passes, and they hope to get him in space. But the offense has been, other than probably the Troy game and the Prairie View game and the second half McNeese game, I think the offense has been pretty steady all year. Obviously, those 3 games I said that they weren't steady. 3 of their losses. So you kind of see the blueprint for beating Southern. Is to slow down the run and make them have to throw. So you want to load up the box because they can't, if they can't run on you, then you want them to have to try to throw the ball. And Southern's prone to interceptions when they do throw the ball. So if you're Alcorn, that's your key is to obviously force Southern to throw, and the opportunity for you to make plays would be there. Defensively, the Southern defense has been, if I had to choose a word, I would say frustrating. They have the talent, but they just have not been productive. They have had injuries this season, but they just have, they've been a step or two off in a lot of plays, and that's really hurt them. Missed tackles, blown coverages, lots of big plays, lots of third down conversions, and not a lot of turnovers forced. But they have the ability if they were to be able to play solidly, but it's just not been there. So for this game, I really, if Southern had beat Prairie View, I would be more confident in them. But Southern has not beat Alcorn in a long time, consistently, and Alcorn is a problem for Southern. And I think it's going to remain that way. I don't know where Southern's team is mentally. They have been a team that's been in the division race. Even if they didn't win it, they've been in the division race till probably the last week of the season for probably the last 4 or 5 years. Even years where Grambling had that very dominant team, Southern still had an outside opportunity if they could beat them to make the championship game, but they never did. And obviously, they won the SWAC West in 2018 and 2019. So this is probably the first year since I'll say like 2012 that Southern has not been in the championship conversation in October. So I don't know how this team is going to be mentally. Have they checked out? I mean, obviously they only have one loss. I mean, not one loss, but they only lost one game this last week. So they have 4 losses on the season, but they are a team. They still have a lot ahead of them, but you don't know how this team is mentally, what their mental makeup is. Are they going to be able to compete week in and week out with this very hard stretch that they have? So I I don't. I think Alcorn's going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it pretty comfortably because I just don't know what Southern is mentally. I picked Alcorn to win this game by a score of 34-20. Southern is on a decline right now. I just don't see how they're going to get out of it with this 4-game stretch that they have to close out their home schedule. So I think Alcorn continues their domination of Southern, and I just don't see Southern being in it much. They may be in it early, but I just don't know the mental makeup of Southern at this portion of the season. So that brings us to our final game of the week, which is our actual game of the week, and that's the Magic City Classic. And this is a game between 3 teams, so it's not like um, two teams who have played tremendous offense. I mean, tremendous football as a team. A&M's an offensive team. Alabama State's a defensive team. So you have two teams. The strengths are matching up. The weaknesses are matching up. So to me, the winner of this game is going to be the team who can win that weakness matchup because A&M, obviously, they're a defense that has not stopped anybody. Um, they have allowed a season high in points and yardage to pretty much everybody they played this year. And they're allowing 39 points per game as a defense, which overshadows an offense that's averaging 31. Um, they haven't run the ball really well this year, 91 yards per game, 2.9 yards per carry, but they're allowing 192 yards on the ground and 5.9 yards per carry. They obviously make their hay through the air. 427 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 335 yards per game passing, 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. The opponents 233 through the air, 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. 427 yards of total offense for the Bulldogs, 55.7 yards per play. The opponents 426 total offense, 6.7 yards per play. 34% conversion on third down for A&M, 35 for the opponents, 53 on fourth down for the opponents, and 68 for the Bulldogs. 6 sacks for A&M, and the opponents have 22 sacks. So you can get pressure on Akil Glass. He obviously not the most mobile quarterback, but so if you get pressure on him, you're gonna make it tough for him to move move that ball through the air, which is what they want to do. With those receivers that they have, um, Hilaire, Ibrahim, Moore, Jenkins, and Anderson. Those guys are the guys that get it done through the air for them. Garrett Quarles is their running back. He's a small guy, but he can get loose. He's averaging 5.4 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, 574 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Defensively, it's not a lot to talk about. They cannot stop anybody. So if you're Alabama State, you have to feel good coming into this game because your offense, for the most part of the season, your offense has been deplorable, and you have some talent. You have really good backs in Ezra Gray and Ja'Cory Merritt, but the running game has not been able to get going this year. 81 yards per game. The passing game has been up and down. Brian Nettles has not had a good season. Miles Crowley took over. He's been up and down because he's a young guy. He's been up and down. Jeremiah Hickson is their leading receiver. The defense is where Alabama State is probably the most steady. That defense is aggressive. They really get after you. Christian Clark clogs up that middle, and Urshad Davis is a guy in the secondary who can make some plays as well. Um, I just think that this is a game that obviously is strength against strength and weakness against weakness. This is going to be an interesting game. If you haven't really followed the Magic City Classic, then you need to know that even though Alabama A&M has won the last three, these games have been, all over the place. Like this, you could throw the records out the window. I forgot to say this is a 2:30 kickoff ESPN3 broadcast, so you can check that out. But you can throw the records out the window when these two teams play because obviously it's a rivalry game. And there's been games where the favorite lost, and there haven't been very many blowouts in this matchup for most recently. A&M leads the series, but these two teams are gonna go at it. They're gonna fight tooth and nail. Um, your season is on the line in a game like this. Regardless of how the rest of your season turns out, you can at least salvage something with a win in this game. So that makes the stakes higher. You're out of the division race, but you don't want to lose this game. And Alabama State is playing an A&M defense that has allowed a season high in yardage and points pretty much every game. I think that's going to continue, but I think Alabama A&M is going to win this game by an odd score. Don't ask me how, but I'm saying 41-39, mainly because Alabama State season high is 38 points. So I think they're going to top that. Now, how the hell they're going to score 39 points, I don't know, but I'm going with that number. So I think this is going to be an entertaining game. This could easily be the game of the day. Obviously, it's my game of the week, but this is a game that will probably be the most competitive game on the schedule this week. So I like the Bulldogs in this one. I think they're going to salvage their season. Alabama State, I think that kind of I don't want to say puts a wrap, but I think that kind of seals the deal a little bit on Coach Hill Ely. They play Prairie View next week, so that's not an easy game. And they just, they haven't had the success that they want. They've been an up and down team all year, and I think really through his whole tenure, and I think that's going to continue. So that's going to do it for today. If you're going to a game, be careful out there. I will be at the Southern Alcorn game, so if you see me, holla. Hopefully it's a good game, but right now I'm not feeling that way. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide, C. Wells, signing out. I'll see you guys tomorrow for our live edition of SWAC Smoke, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday with our Week 9 recap. And that's going to do it. I'm out.